Alex Carter opened his eyes slowly. The sound of crackling fire and broken metal filled his ears. He tried to sit up, but pain shot through his leg. His ship had crashed, and now he was alone. All around him were tall black trees and glowing blue plants. The sky was purple, and 2 moons hung above like silent watchers. His oxygen meter blinked red. This was not Earth. This was Zarin 5, a forbidden planet where no human dared to go. But Alex had no choice. He was sent here to explore what others feared, to search for answers that many believed were lost forever. Zarin 5 was once connected to humans long ago, but now only rumors remained. They said humans were gods here once, and then vanished without reason. The alien species living here believed in something called the Silence, a time when the sky fell and their gods disappeared. Alex limped through the thick forest, his hand on a small pistol. He didn't want to fight, but he was ready. He found the remains of an old building covered in vines. Strange symbols were carved into the stone, and some of them looked oddly familiar. He stepped inside carefully. It was cold, silent, and full of dust. Then he saw them, statues of humans, tall, strong, dressed in armor, their hands held out like they were giving something. Alex's heart pounded. These aliens worshipped humans. Why? Who were they to these people? Suddenly, he heard a soft sound behind him. He turned quickly, gun raised, but it was just a girl, an alien girl. She was about his height, with silver skin and deep green eyes. Her hair was long and braided with tiny, glowing stones. She looked afraid but also amazed. "You are not supposed to be here," she said quietly. Alex lowered his weapon. "I didn't mean to crash," he replied. "My ship, something hit it." She stared at him, eyes wide. Then she asked, "What did you say?" Alex paused, confused. "I said I crashed," he repeated slowly. The girl stepped closer, her eyes filling with shock. She whispered, "You speak the dead language of our ancestors?" Alex blinked. "What are you talking about?" The girl's hands shook. She looked around like someone might be watching. Then she grabbed his arm. "You must come with me now," she said. "If others find you, they will kill you." Alex followed her through the forest, unsure if he should trust her. But something told him she was different. She moved fast and quiet, like she knew the forest well. After a while, they reached a cave hidden behind a waterfall. Inside were old machines glowing softly. Alex's eyes widened. "These are human," he said. The girl looked at him in surprise again. "No one knows how they work," she whispered. "Only the priests of the High Order are allowed to come here." Alex walked slowly to one of the machines. He placed his hand on a screen. The machine beeped and lit up. The girl gasped. "You really are one of them," she said. "You speak the Forbidden's tongue, and the old machines listen to you." Alex turned to her. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Zara," Alex repeated. "I don't know what's happening, but I need help." Zara looked down, thinking hard. "My father is one of the elders," she said. "If he finds out I'm helping you, he will send me to the shadow caves." "Then why are you helping me?" Alex asked. She looked into his eyes. "Because I've heard your voice before," she said. "In my dreams." Alex froze. That made no sense, but her eyes were honest. Zara reached into her pouch and pulled out a small crystal. It glowed when Alex came close. "I don't know what this is," she said, "but when I hold it, I see faces like yours." Alex gently took the crystal. It lit up brighter in his hand. Then from the crystal, a soft voice played. "If you are hearing this, then humanity is not gone." Zara stepped back, shocked. Alex stared at the crystal. It was a message from someone long ago, someone human. He looked at Zara. "We have to find out more," he said. "There's something big here, something forgotten." Zara nodded slowly. "But we must be careful," she said. "If the High Order learns about you, they will erase everything." Alex knew one thing now. He wasn't just a lost explorer anymore. He was part of a story much older than he ever imagined. And the language he spoke might be the key to everything. This world had hidden for centuries. Alex couldn't sleep. The cave was quiet, but his mind was loud. The crystal still glowed beside him, soft and warm, like it was alive. Zara sat by the entrance, watching the waterfall flow over the rocks. She hadn't said much since the message played. The voice inside the crystal said humans were not gone, but if that was true, why had this planet forgotten them? Alex stood and walked toward her. She didn't turn, but she spoke. "You are not just a man who fell from the sky." Alex sat beside her. "I didn't know I was," he said. Zara looked at him, her green eyes full of questions. "When I was young, I would hear voices in my dreams," she said. "They would speak in a language I didn't understand." Alex felt a chill. "What did they say?" "I only remembered the sounds," she said. "But now, when you speak, I recognize them." Alex stayed quiet. He didn't understand what connected them, but it felt real. Zara reached into her robe and pulled out a thin metal band. It looked old, broken, with tiny faded letters on it. "My mother gave this to me before she died," she whispered. "She said I must never show it to anyone." Alex took the band gently and turned it in the light. The letters were English. It said, Unit 09 Human Care NOV, a PROGRM. Alex stared at it for a long time. "Zara," he said, "this isn't alien. This is from Earth." She didn't speak for a moment. Then she said something strange. "Maybe I'm not fully alien either," before he could ask more. A sudden flash lit the cave walls. Zara jumped to her feet and grabbed Alex's hand. "They found us," she said, panic in her voice. "Run." They raced through the back of the cave along a narrow tunnel. The glow of Zara's crystal lit the path as shadows moved behind them. Voices echoed, not like hers, harsher, commanding. Alex heard one of them shout a word he didn't know, and a pulse of light hit the cave wall behind him. He almost fell. But Zara pulled him up. The tunnel opened into a deep chamber filled with strange lights and silent machines. Zara looked around, confused. "I've never been here before," she said. The machines were round and smooth, like eggs made of metal. Some floated slowly. Others were broken and still. Then one moved toward Alex. It hovered in front of him and let out a soft hum. A red light scanned his body from head to toe. Zara stepped back, unsure whether to run or stay. Then the machine spoke. "Human signature detected. Language match, 93%. System unlocking." A hidden door opened on the far side of the chamber. Alex and Zara exchanged a glance and stepped through it. Inside was a round room filled with old screens and faded maps. A chair sat in the center, with symbols glowing around it as Alex entered. The lights grew brighter. Zara followed slowly, her eyes wide. "This place is older than any city we know," she whispered. Alex approached the main screen. It flickered, then showed a face. A woman in a uniform, smiling. She looked human. "If this message plays," she said, "then someone found the Nova Seed. The child is not only the future of this world. She's the last hope of Earth's memory." Zara stepped forward. "Child?" Alex looked at her. "The Nova program," he said slowly. "They sent out genetic code. Maybe even part humans, hidden among alien species." Zara's hands began to shake. "You're saying I'm not just a dreamer. I'm one of them." Before Alex could answer, the alarm blared again. The hunters were getting closer. But now Zara wasn't just afraid, she was waking up. A machine behind her started to rise, glowing with the same light as her crystal. Zara looked back at Alex, her voice calm but serious. "If I am one of them," she said, "then I will find out everything." Alex nodded. They had no time left to run. But maybe now they had something stronger than fear, a truth that could not be silenced, and a girl who was no longer just a curious stranger, but the key to unlocking a forgotten past. The storm outside the mountain cave had passed, but something inside Zara had just begun to awaken. She stood in front of the ancient machine, its lights pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Alex watched her carefully, still trying to understand what she truly was. He had read about forgotten programs, about Earth's last hope being sent far away, planted like seeds across the stars. But now one of those seeds had grown into Zara, and she didn't even know it until now. The message from the screen still echoed in his mind. The child is the last hope of Earth's memory. Zara reached out her hand. The machine responded like it had been waiting for her touch for centuries. Symbols lit up the floor, and a panel opened, revealing a glowing orb floating in the air. The orb showed moving images Earth as it was. Blue oceans, green forests, cities in the clouds, ships flying across space. Zara stepped closer, her eyes wide. "I've seen this before," she whispered, "in my dreams. Always in pieces. But this is all of it." Alex looked at her in surprise. "Your dreams are memories," he said, "locked inside you." She nodded slowly, her voice distant. "My mother used to sing strange songs when I was small," she said. "The elders called them nonsense. But now I understand some of the words." Alex felt a chill. "Can you say one?" he asked. She closed her eyes, then spoke softly, almost like a song. "Home is where the sky begins and never ends." The orb pulsed bright for a second, then zoomed in on a location, an old human outpost hidden deep underground. A voice came from the orb, memory link restored. "Next beacon, Site Theta." Zara looked at Alex. "There's more," she said. "More places like this. More secrets." Before he could answer, a sudden crash echoed through the tunnels. The entrance was under attack. The hunters had found them again. This time, they were not alone. Zara could hear something else behind their footsteps, a voice not spoken aloud, but inside her head, cold, demanding, ancient. She fell to her knees, clutching her head. Alex rushed to her, trying to help. "What's wrong?" "It's the High Order," she gasped. "They don't speak words. They use thought. They know I'm changing." The walls trembled, machines flickered. Something was waking up with her. The orb floated closer to her and scanned her face. Cognitive lock breaking. "Primary functions online," Zara opened. Her eyes, they were glowing softly now, not green but golden. The hunters entered the chamber, cloaked in black armor and holding stun weapons. They saw Zara and stopped in their tracks. One of them raised his hand. "You are under command of the elders," he said. "You will surrender." Zara stood slowly, her voice calm and cold. "You speak in commands, but you forget something." "I know the tongue of the sky." The hunters hesitated. Then she spoke one word. A word in English, ancient, powerful. "Release." The machines behind her activated. Energy shields formed around her and Alex. The hunters fired, but their weapons were blocked like dust hitting glass. A giant arm moved from the far wall part of the buried defense system. It scanned Zara and stopped. Command voice matched. It said, "Unit Zara. Authority confirmed." Alex couldn't believe what he was seeing. She was controlling the technology with just her voice. Not because she learned how, but because it was already part of her. The hunters began to retreat, their minds full of fear. No one had spoken the Forbidden's tongue and lived. No one had made the machines listen since the silence. But now she had, when the room went still. Zara turned to Alex. "There's something inside me," she said. "Not just memory. Something deeper, I feel like. I was made for this." Alex nodded slowly. "You weren't just born here," he said. "You were sent here." She looked down at her hands. "Then I will follow the beacons," she said, "one by one. I will find the truth." Alex stood beside her. "I'll go with you." She gave a small smile. "You don't have a choice," she said. "The machines already like you, together." They walked through the new tunnel that opened before them, deeper into the planet's forgotten heart, where truth waited like fire under ice, and where the dead language was no longer silent. It was alive again. Asterisk. The path was not made by hands. It shaped itself as Zara walked, like the planet was listening. To her steps, walls of silver stone unfolded, glowing with lines that pulsed in time with her breath. Alex followed closely, still trying to understand what she had become. This tunnel was hidden deep beneath the land, unknown even to the alien. Rulers above, The machines had opened it only after Zara spoke the word release. And now it guided them somewhere only she was meant to reach. Zara didn't speak for a long time. Her mind was full of voices. Some from her past, some from the machines, and one voice that didn't belong to anyone at all. It felt old, quiet, and warm. It kept saying, "Find Site Theta, awaken the seed." Alex watched her carefully. She seemed more distant now, like she was between two worlds. He wanted to protect her, but he also knew this journey was bigger than both of them. Suddenly the tunnel ended. They stepped into a massive chamber, wider than anything they had seen before. A dark lake stretched out in front of them, and in the center stood a tower of light. Floating above the water, Zara took a step forward. But the moment her foot touched the surface, a voice echoed across the space. "Unregistered genetic presence detected. Test required." Before they could react, the floor beneath Alex vanished. He fell into darkness. Zara screamed his name, but he was gone. Alex landed hard. Dust rising around him. It was a small room, shaped like a sphere. He stood, rubbing his shoulder, trying to understand what had just happened. Then the wall lit up. With images not of Earth, but of Zara. He saw her as a baby, being placed in a glowing pod. He saw a group of humans arguing. Some wanted to send her to this planet. Others called it dangerous. One woman said, "She will not survive among them," but another replied, "She must. She is the only chance they have of remembering who they once were." Alex stepped back, his heart racing. Zara wasn't just connected to humans. She was created by them, a living memory, planted inside an alien world to keep human history alive without being noticed. A hybrid, half machine, half organic, born from both stars and soil. Above, Zara stood still as a platform rose beneath her feet. It carried her slowly toward the floating tower. The water around her sparkled, reacting to her presence. But then something cold entered the chamber. The High Order had arrived. 5 figures in black robes floated over the lake, their eyes glowing white. Their minds pressed against Zara's like knives made of thought. "You were not meant to awaken," one of them said without moving his mouth. "You were made to sleep." Zara's voice trembled, but she stood tall. "I am not your prisoner." The robes shifted, revealing twisted metal under their skin. They were not just rulers. They were broken machines pretending to be gods. One of them raised a hand, and the air around Zara became heavy. "You speak the Forbidden's tongue," he said. "That makes you dangerous." But Zara did not fall. Instead, she whispered one word, "Truth." The tower answered her. A beam of light shot into the sky, and the room shook like it had waited forever for that word. Below, Alex's chamber opened, and a stairway formed. Leading him up to the lake, he ran, breathless, until he reached the edge and saw Zara glowing with golden light. The High Order turned to him. "You are the outsider," one hissed. "You brought the infection." Alex raised his voice. "She was never broken," he said. "You were just afraid she'd remember." Zara closed her eyes. The word came to her not from memory, but from her soul. She spoke it without fear. "Restore." The lake exploded with light. The robes of the High Order fell empty to the floor. Their power dissolved. Their lies burned away. And in the silence that followed, the tower opened. Inside was a single seat, made of the same crystal Zara carried. She walked to it, sat down, and the entire structure began to hum. It sent a signal across the stars, not just to this planet, but to others, to the forgotten children of Earth scattered across the galaxy. The message was simple. The language once dead was now alive again, and the one who spoke it had awakened the legacy. Alex stood by her side, silent and proud. But he knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning, because truth always echoes, and now it had found its voice. Asterisk. Asterisk, the signal had been sent, but silence answered back. Not the silence of emptiness. It was the silence of someone or something watching. Zara sat in the crystal seat, her eyes glowing gold, her fingers gently resting on the curved surface of the control ring. The tower still floated over the glowing lake, but the lights had dimmed. It was waiting, so was she. Alex paced behind her, uneasy. The message had reached somewhere far away, but they didn't know who or what would answer it. "We may have woken something," he said quietly. Zara nodded. "We had to. The truth can't stay buried." Far above them, deep in the stars, an ancient ship opened its eyes. It had been asleep for hundreds of years, its engines cold, its mind quiet. But when Zara spoke the word, "restore," the ship heard it like a child hearing its mother's voice. And now it turned toward Zaran 5. Back on the planet, the city that had forgotten its history was no longer quiet. Zara's name had spread like fire through the streets. Some called her a heretic, some called her a sign of the sky god's return, but none dared speak her name without fear or awe. In the dark halls of the High Order's shattered temple, a lone figure watched the flickering lights on a map he had. No name, only a title, the listener. Unlike the others, he had survived Zara's awakening, but he had not escaped unchanged. Her words had broken the mental chains wrapped around him, and now he remembered things he was never meant to remember, old things, human things. He whispered, "Language is power," and then he vanished into the shadows. Zara and Alex left the tower, the path behind them sealed shut like a heartbeat closing. The machines had given them a new direction, a beacon buried under the capital city of the alien world. But this time, it wouldn't be hidden, it would be defended. "I've never been to the capital," Zara said as they walked across the quiet hills. "They say the stars never shine there." Alex looked at her. "Why?" "Because the lights from the towers are too bright," she said. "Too proud to let the sky be seen." When they reached the city's edge, they saw the towers, tall and silver, glowing with artificial fire, rising like swords from the earth. The people watched them as they entered. Some bowed their heads, others spat and turned away. The speaker of the forgotten tongue had returned, and she brought danger with her. In the center of the city stood a monument, an old structure no one remembered. Building, it had no doors, no windows, just walls with symbols no alien could understand. Zara stepped forward. As she placed her hand on the wall, the symbols began to move. They shifted and changed into English. "Command recognized, Guardian." "Protocol initiating." Alex tensed. "Guardian?" he asked. The ground rumbled. From beneath the monument, the earth cracked open, and something climbed out. It was not alive, not fully machine either. It was a guardian made of memory and metal, and it stared at Zara with empty eyes. "Speak," it said. "Prove who you are." Zara's heart pounded. She remembered a phrase her mother used to sing to her like a lullaby. She spoke it softly, but clearly. "We remember the stars, for they remember us." The guardian stepped back and bowed its head. Access granted. A spiral staircase opened beneath the monument, leading down into darkness. Zara turned to Alex. "If I go alone, will you wait?" Alex shook his head. "We've come this far together," he said. "I'm not stopping now." They descended. Below the city was a chamber filled with echoes. Alex could hear whispers, fragments of human voices, broken but still alive. Zara walked to the center. A pedestal waited for her hand. She placed it there. Light spread through the room. Holograms lit up Earth cities, stars, names, languages, faces. This was not just a beacon, it was a library. A digital soul of humanity. She turned to Alex, eyes wide with wonder. "This is where our words live," she said. "Not in books, but in memory." Above them, the city roared with confusion and fear. Below them, humanity spoke again, and for the first time in centuries, the past was no longer silent. It was speaking clearly, through the voice of a girl who should not have remembered anything, but remembered everything. A shadow moved through the city like a ghost no one could see. It slipped between stone alleys and market paths, never touching light. It listened to voices whispering about Zara, about the girl who spoke in the tongue of the sky, about machines that obeyed her like a queen returned from the grave. The people were afraid, but their fear was changing, turning into belief. turning into something dangerous. Zara and Alex had not returned to the surface. They were still underground, inside the ancient library of memory. Zara sat among the glowing lights of human history, slowly learning who she really was. The machines showed her old languages, star maps, lost symbols, and strange stories of Earth's final years. One phrase repeated more than any other. Language holds the key. She was beginning to understand. The voice she had always heard in her dreams. It was not just memory. It was programming code inside her mind, placed there before she was even born. Words that could open doors, words that could end wars. And somewhere above her, someone else had noticed. The listener stood before the broken temple of the high order. His eyes were no longer white. They were now filled with flickering data, like tiny stars burning inside. He had survived Zara's awakening, but he had not escaped untouched. Her voice had unlocked something in him too. Something he had buried long ago. His memories were returning in fragments. He remembered wearing a suit, holding a baby, whispering words in English before handing her to a machine. He remembered her name, Zara. I was one of the builders. He said to the wind, and I forgot. But now I remember, and if I remember, others can too. Back underground, Alex stared at the spinning map of stars above them. He noticed a blinking dot far in the outer ring. What's that one? He asked. Zara turned. It's another seed site, she said. But this one is different, it says. Home site. Maybe that's where they first launched the Nova program. Alex felt a pull toward it, like something far away was calling his name. But before they could plan their next move, the entire chamber shook, the light dimmed, and the machines froze mid-frame. A voice spoke from all directions. Unauthorized access detected. Purge protocol activated. Zara stood quickly. This isn't the library, she said. This is someone else. The machines began to shut down. One by one, Alex looked around. Something's blocking us, above. The listener had placed his hand on an old control altar, hidden deep within the temple ruins. He had activated a final safeguard, a firewall made of living thought. Not to destroy Zara, but to test her. If she is truly human, he said, she will speak the word. Underground, the walls began to close in. Zara's eyes glowed bright, and she whispered, release. But nothing happened. The machines did not move. Alex grabbed her hand. Try something else. She closed her eyes, and from deep inside her, a new word rose to the surface, a word no one had spoken since the fall of Earth. Remember. The walls stopped, the lights returned, and a new voice spoke, clearer than any before. Identity confirmed. Speaker of the first flame, awaiting your command. Zara looked around, breathless. First flame? Alex asked. She nodded slowly. That's what they called the first Nova child. They called me that. The entire chamber rose from the ground, lifting them up into the open sky. The city gasped as the ancient monuments split and unfolded like petals of a forgotten flower. Zara and Alex stood in the center, glowing with ancient light. The people fell silent. The soldiers who had come to arrest them dropped their weapons. And from the crowd, the listener stepped forward. He fell to one knee. I remember you, he said, his voice full of emotion. I carried you in my arms when the sky was still burning. Zara stepped down from the platform. Her voice was quiet, but powerful. You don't have to remember everything, she said. Just one thing. We are not gone. We are not lost. We speak again. And in that moment, the people listened and believed, because the language of the dead was no longer dead. It was alive on her lips, and the stars were beginning to listen too. The stars were no longer silent. From far across the galaxy, lights moved like whispers of a long-forgotten wind. They were not comets. They were not meteors. They were ships. Ancient human vessels drifting, damaged, but still alive. They had been waiting for a signal. Now they had heard it. Zara stood on the highest tower of the capital, watching the sky ripple like water touched by truth. She wore no crown. She held no weapon, but she was the most powerful voice in the galaxy, the city behind. Her had changed. Flags of the High Order had been torn down. Statues once built to honor false rulers were being replaced by glowing symbols of unity, and people had begun to speak English again, not perfectly, not easily, but proudly. They called it the Tongue of Light. Alex stood beside her, his hand resting on a datapad connected to the ancient map from the library. More dots had appeared, more nova seeds like Zera, some near, some far, hidden in worlds that had never heard Earth's name. "They're waking up," he said. Zera nodded. "Just like I did. Maybe they dreamed the same things. But no one believed them." She turned to him. "We have to find them," Alex smiled. "I knew you'd say that." But even before they could leave, the sky split open with fire. A giant vessel entered orbit. Bigger than any machine they had seen. It wasn't alien, and it wasn't friendly. Alex zoomed in with the pad, his face darkened. "It's not one of ours," he said. Zera watched the shape shift and shimmer. It bore no flag, no name, only a single word written in ancient letters across its hull. "Exile. They were not part of the Nova program," she said. "They were the ones left behind." The exile ship sent no message, but the planet's machines reacted in fear. Buried cannons rose from the ground, shields activated. The world remembered. "This name," Alex ran scans. "They're broadcasting a signal," he said. "Encrypted." But angry, Zera closed her eyes and let the machine language flow into her. It wasn't just anger, it was pain. The exile ship had wandered the stars for centuries, without purpose, without home. They were survivors who had forgotten kindness only. Strength remained in their code. "They want to take the seeds," she said. "They think we betrayed them." Alex looked at her. "What do we do?" She didn't answer with words. She stepped forward and spoke in the language that only memory could understand. "Come home." The exile ship paused, its weapons charged, but something cracked in its signal. A voice responded, not harsh, but broken. "There is no home," Zera answered softly. "Then let me give it back, from the tower." She activated the library. She sent the full memory of Earth across the sky. Not just maps or data, but laughter, music. Stories of old humans hugging under rain. Pictures of a blue planet spinning in peace. The exile ship trembled in orbit, its weapons turned off, and its lights dimmed like it had taken a deep breath after a long cry. It began to descend slowly, gently. Like a child no longer afraid of sleep, Alex stood stunned. "You didn't fight them," he said. Zera looked at him. "I didn't need to. I spoke what they had forgotten." In the days that followed, the stars grew busy, ships from across the galaxy arrived. Drawn by the signal Zera had awakened, not all were friendly, but none could ignore the girl who spoke the dead language. She became a teacher, a traveler, a bridge between the future and the forgotten. The speaker of the first flame, one night, as the twin moons rose over the mountains, Zera stood alone and whispered into the wind, "Do you hear me now?" Somewhere deep in space, an old Earth satellite blinked once and then answered, "Yes, child. Welcome home." And just like that, the voice of humanity was no longer lost. It was alive again, inside the heart of a girl who had been born to remember, and now chosen to help the stars remember too.